since the Industrial Revolution. In the last few months, we have faced dramatic and transformative and often interconnected events. A banking crisis that led to an industrial crisis, then to a trade crisis, and now an employment crisis. We've seen unemployment go up by 5 million in America alone. We've seen 600,000 factories close in China. We've seen exports fall from Japan by 14% in only a few weeks. We've seen economies from Hungary to Pakistan collapse under the weight of this crisis. We have global banks that are so entangled with each other that they have run up millions of dollars of losses and seen that a bad bank in one country can bring down good banks in almost every country. And what each country is having to cope with, and this is the challenge of our times, is unique changes. We have global flows of capital now. We have global sourcing of goods and services. We have, as you know, instantaneous global communications. We are a truly global economy for the first time in the history of the world. But the global economy is not working as it should, because it is not yet founded, as every society should be, on the values and the rules that can deliver responsibility by all and fairness to all. Now, the sheer scale of what is happening doesn't mean that we should let ourselves be frozen into inaction, or immobilized, or overwhelmed. We cannot sit back and do nothing, and just let this change, this recession, take its course. Quite the opposite. We must do all that we can to be equal to this great challenge. We now know that our world is indivisible. We now know that global problems like financial instability, climate change, energy security, poverty, terrorism, these global problems cannot be solved by one government alone. They need global solutions. And we all know from what we see now around the world that prosperity, to be sustained, must be shared with all continents. But we also know that international bankers should never again be speculators with people's money. They must once again become the stewards of people's money. And we know that markets cannot be allowed to serve their own selfish interests, but must serve the public interest too. Now that's why when Barack Obama and the other European leaders, and leaders from countries as diverse as China, Brazil, South Africa, India, as well as all of the rest of Europe came together, we agreed it was wrong that shadow banking systems should exist unsupervised, from hedge funds to special vehicles around the world. And for the first time in the history of the world, we agreed global rules and global standards of accountability and transparency, so we knew and know what is happening in our financial system. And it's wrong that people can pass risks from country to country, passing capital and then the risk of that capital without taking any responsibility for what they do. So we agreed for the first time cross-border supervision of financial institutions. So there is not just national supervision now, but there is international supervision too. And it's wrong that tax havens protect people from paying their fair share of taxes. And it's wrong that financial executives can pay themselves for short-term speculation, not for long-term sustainable growth. So we agreed global rules, so there is now to be no hiding place for tax avoiders, and international rules so that the same principles that should guide us and do guide us in our home lives, that you are responsible, that you work hard, that you play by the rules, you take responsibility, that you are not guilty of excess and irresponsibility. These are now rules that we have laid down globally for the international financial system. And that's why, in line with what happened when Barack Obama and others met in London, we have proposed a budget this week to fight back against the international recession and to give Britain a bold recovery plan for our future. Our budget is based on one principle. If you don't invest in the future, you don't have a future.